Morning, guys. Sunday morning. Usually I would be going to a training group that I hang out with, the Schützen training group, and doing some bite work with Norman Augustine. But with the situation going on and trying to keep social distancing, we canceled. And then here I am going on to the store. Tina was already kind of nagging at me. She doesn't want me to go anywhere, but I got to have what I got to have in general, just, to give myself peace of mind and find out what's going on around me. It's kind of like just that human nature I was talking about that you just can't fight. But I got a bunch of top ramen the other day, and I didn't get any frozen vegetables, which is what I usually do, peas, carrots, that kind of thing, and throw it in there. And then also some sausage links, some type of meat sausage you could cut up in little chunks, so you can add that to that. I like to beef up my top ramen. And I went and got top ramen the first time I've got it in a long time, and bought enough in to be able to stock in, because it's a great thing to keep in your larder, your pantry, when you're having money problems. I remember doing it when I was a kid and seeing the college kids do it at my town. I grew up in a college town, so Cal Polytech San Luis Obispo, and that was one of the highest rated aero engineers and also agriculture and architecture is what the school's known for. But when you grow up in that environment, you've got houses all around you that are nothing but students. Next door neighbors were aero engineers. I think I mentioned that on the last thing. All right, so what I want to talk about is I've got a couple videos I'm trying to put together, and they're going to be real jumbled. I don't have anybody filming me, so it's just going to be my jumbled mess that I do. But at the same time, I'm covering layering in a working buddy into a stem collar, and I've talked a lot about what I'm doing with that. And I will say that if you don't know anything about stem collars, get online and look up the Dobs, D-O-B-S, I do believe is what it is. And the Dobs used to work for Tritronics, and back in the 80s they were doing all kinds of seminars for Tritronics, going all over the place educating people, and they have a system that they use that's very effective in layering in and working your dog into a stem collar in the proper way. And that means that we work it on very low stimulation, and we find out what the working level is of the animal, what he can feel, and we start teaching him what that signal is by letting him turn off that. Just like going to a switch and you turn a switch off on the light on the wall, you're basically conditioning the animal what they call a three-way turn-off. And that means doing 2 or 3 things that are very logical, that can convey the concept to the animal of what you're trying to get him to understand, which is basically that you're giving the power to the dog, right? You're giving the power to the dog and letting him learn that he has the power to turn it off. And depending on the dog, depending on how you do this, and catching drives and working it properly and mixing up, you've heard me talk about mix-up, we'll get back to that subject later, but you end up having a dog that feels that signal, and then he'll work real hard and fast to turn that off, because you're conditioning him and giving the power to the dog and teaching him that he's the one that controls turning off that stimulation, okay? And we do it at a very low level because he has no clue what this little tingling is. If you had one of those back things that put on the back from chiropractors and things, that little tin machine, and it gives you that little tingling, you feel it. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. And the dog feels that, and we're not putting it to a level that's uncomfortable. And that we term as pressure, okay? We're teaching the dog how to turn off the pressure. Just like if you were to take a leash and you put pressure on the leash and the dog gives to that pressure, that's another lesson that you will be very advantageous in making sure that you teach your dog to understand that he has the power, by complying with what you're asking for, to turn off that pressure. And that's what they call it. They call it pressure. It's pressure work, okay? So I'm doing that with Buddy for a specific reason. And the reason is that if I was to try to get him, and right now I'm trying to get him to look at me, right? And there's a certain amount of corrections that's involved with that, because every time he looks away, he's going to get a correction. But there's social pressure involved with that. You've heard the old term where your emotions and your energy go right from you down the leash to the dog. Well, it's very true. When the dog has a leash on, he feels that you're in control because you're always right behind that leash. And there's a certain amount of social pressure that's involved with that, with your body language, with your corrections and everything else. There's social pressure that's put on the dog. He can accept that when he's in the leash because you've taught him that from a puppy. He has no clue. Now, you come in and you start using the stem collar, right? He has no clue what this stem collar is. He has no clue what this little feeling is. It's confusing to him. So what we do is what we call a three-way turnoff. And again, look it up, or maybe I'll put a link in this video and refer you to it. And then it's a dead site. Basically, there's no maintenance being done on it, but it's still there, okay? And a lot of the articles that they wrote over the years, they put on the site. And you got to find them. Go and try to find the Schutzen section, because the Schutzen section's working dogs. We're dealing with working dog drives, and that allows us to learn the best way that's functional for me as a working dog trainer, okay, to use this collar, okay? And in general, on all dogs. I'd use it on pet quality dogs. It wouldn't matter. It's the philosophies and the system is very true and tried, okay? It works. And it's very humane to the animal, because you're doing it in the proper fashion to, again, convey the thought to the dog in such a way that he learns he has the power to turn this off. And you build that the right way. Another thing that I mentioned in this collar is that it's a three-dimensional tool. Okay, so what I mean by that is if you looked at a chessboard and you were playing chess, okay, and you were playing a game of chess, you usually have to think 2 or 3 moves out ahead, even 4 and 5, those that are real good, right? And you're looking at one chessboard and you're playing against that person, and you're projecting your mind to reach out 3 or 4, maybe even 5 moves ahead. And the better you can do at that, the better you're going to be at chess. Now take that same thing and do it in a 3-dimensional chessboard. You get my point? Now you're looking at that conceptually, and your brain has to be able to stretch in a 3-dimensional fashion. That's even a lot more, okay? So 3-dimensional chess takes it to a whole nother level, right? So that's what this tool is like. If you use it properly, you layer it in properly, and you understand the concept of this tool, you turn it into a 3-dimensional chessboard, okay? And that makes that tool a very powerful tool. But remember, the tool is only as good as the person using it. So the knowledge that you need to have is all the knowledge of dog psychology, proper marker training, and a good understanding of how to condition a dog and get him to understand in the right fashion, so that you're using the whole concept that you've already used and learning to learn, right? If you've already taught the dog to learn, and you've got these little pieces of that puzzle in the right places, the dog will pick up on what you're trying to teach him with that stem collar a lot faster. If you don't, if you just slap it on there and you think of it as a punishment tool, and you're only using it in a one-dimensional way, only as a negative and as punishment, which I call a trash breaker, okay? Here's a good example of that. They've got collars that they've had, Tritronics, that go 1 to 7. Okay, so the levels, when you jump to that next level, are very dramatic, right? And you end up with a collar that only can be what I call a trash breaker. It can only be used as punishment, because it does only 1 through 7. And there's some use in that. I mean, the voltage and the currents and everything else with these collars that go through 1 through 7 and Tritronic have been the old-fashioned type of way of doing it. They have a little bit more of a bite to them, okay? And that bite is going to be more of a punishment tool. I call it a trash breaker. If a dog touches the trash can, boom, ouch, it hurts, he's going to learn real quick not to touch that. And I use some negatives like that in about 5 or 6 different ways of things that I use it in a trash breaking way. Counter surfing would be one of those. Getting in the trash would be another one. Jumping up on you is another one. The reason being is if a dog jumps up on you and your correction's fast enough, boom, ouch, that hurts. How long does it take you as you go through the door, smack your head on the top of the door, to learn to bend your head? Okay? If a door is a low door jam and you go walking through it, you smack your head on the top of the door, how long is it going to take you to learn to duck before you go in? Okay? If you grab a pot off the stove and it's hot and you don't use a pot holder, ow, that hurts. How long is it going to take you to learn to use a pot holder? Okay? So that's that negative type of a correction-based, punishment-based that you can use in some certain ways, but I don't use my whole philosophy. My baseboard is not that way anymore. I use it in certain 5 or 6 different areas that it's just a lot quicker and done and over with to use those methods, and they will be used in that respect. But in most things, I'm not going to use that, especially with the collar. I want you to learn to use it the right way, okay, and to layer it in the right way. So we're going to show you with Buddy how we do that. I've done this series before when I did it with Rocky and I phased in the collar with him. We went over this subject. I'm just going to probably repeat myself and show you how it's working with Buddy and how I condition it in the dog. So we'll talk about that more as I go along. I'm getting some of these in. They're going to be real rough because it's only me filming, and we'll go from there. I thank you very much. Have a good day and be safe, people. Stay away from all the people, because you're going to get this thing. It's coming. The guy in New York, the governor of New York, just Como, he just said that 80% in that area will probably get it. And I think that's going to be the case with our whole society, to be honest with you. We're all going to get it. Some of us will have more immunity to it. Some will have more tolerance to it. Others won't. And those high risk, we're going to have a problem with it. So we'll talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.